Good morning to everyone, and so thank you for joining the Women Empowerment Session, and we thank you for going to be tuning in next Saturday, or I think it's next Saturday, on October the 3rd, and we're going to have a legal attorney on the panel as well, and she's going to be sharing a lot of information in regards, but today we will be talking to women about the power of change, and this is something that we all have struggled with, whether we do it now or whether we have struggled with it in the past, in order to be able to achieve new levels in Christianity and be able to strengthen and grow our faith and our walk in Christ. And so that's the reason why that discussion is very important. And today on our panel we have Minister Carenda Pittman that is going to, it's Carenda Deonne, I'm sorry, that is going to be on our panel. And she's going to talk to us today, ladies, of how to have the power to change. So good morning and welcome to the broadcast, Carenda.
Good morning, Pastor Diane. So glad to be with you and your audience and to talk about this wonderful, wonderful and necessary topic today. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. You're welcome. So we're going to get started. Tell us a little bit about you. Most of our guests, they talk about the passion that they have at this point, but just kind of take us a little bit back to how you got started and what kind of catapulted you to be able to get into ministry and to be able to help other women in other areas.
Oh, absolutely, Pastor Diane. I was that little girl growing up that, really enjoyed tea parties and dressing up and being a girly girl. Always been that. And even when growing up, when other girls and other kids were outside playing in dirt and jumping fences, I was writing, I was dreaming, I was having those conversations even with my parents and teddy bears, etc. And so it's always, just a little bit different for me in that standpoint. But and as I grew older, I always found writing to be a very safe place, and I've been writing for a very long time. And so as I grew older as well, I started doing more, public speaking. My parents had me doing a lot of that as well growing up. And but one thing I knew for sure was that, I was born to motivate. I was definitely born to motivate. And I just have a heart for women. And that heart comes from my intimate relationship with God, as well as just some of the experiences that I have been through to just empower women to know that, listen, you're not on this alone. You're not in this by yourself. And that there definitely is room for restoration, for accountability, for growth. And so in my growing up and writing and speaking, and I gave my life to the Lord and made him Lord of my life in college, actually. And from that point, my relationship with the Lord just continued to grow. And I remember when, I was hearing the Lord, call me into ministry, and I was just like, oh, no, not me. Maybe my neighbor, maybe my cousin, maybe, not me. And, I tried to run for a very, very long time. And I was actually, I even had close family members that, they did not believe in female preachers and ministers. And so a lot of that kind of played a part, too, because I said, okay, am I going to have support and things of that nature. But I couldn't run from it. When God has a calling on your life, you can try to run, but you cannot. You cannot run from it. So I finally said, yes, Lord, yes, yes, yes. And so it was in August of 2006. I was in the Baptist denomination, did my trial sermon, and just been with the Lord and speaking and preaching and ministering ever since. And I count it truly a blessing.
Great,
Yeah.
because I came through Baptist as well, and then and then what I've learned later, though, a lot of times when we transition from one perhaps one aspect of religion to another, we have the stigmatization and the stigmatizing, and then we also have the stereotyping. So I found out later, though, talking to the Lord one day, I said, God, some of the doors seem like they're just hard to open, and seem like my opportunities are slowed down. And so that's when he introduced me, because it was like, from now, I'm not apostolic faith or that or anything like that, but we are Pentecostal. But at the same time, though, listen to this. At the same time, he told me, he said, well, you limit yourself. So when we limit ourselves and you only just deal with the people that are in your surrounding, whether it's Lutheran or whether some people are Catholic or whether they're Baptist or Methodist, if you limit yourself, then that's just what you're doing. You're limiting yourself. And so once I began to open up and obey God, obey the voice of God, that's when the doors began to come back open. See, because everybody... It's not one specific organization that needs a word. All of us need a word. So it does not, it does matter who's bringing it, but at the same time, you'll know if the person is real or if they're capable enough to be able to bring a sufficient word to the people. And so after that, those Baptist doors start to open it right back up, because that's where I came from. I came from a Baptist denomination, grew up in Baptist and what have you. But at that particular Baptist ministry, they did not teach what I needed at that time. Come on.
At that time.
They were not teaching what I needed in order for me to be able to change, in order to grow. But now, even affiliating with the Baptist ministries and things, you can't tell them some of the ministries now from Pentecostals and Church of God in Crisis. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful how we judge in things, because now you can go up in Baptist churches and they're popping off just like popcorn and things. They are fire. They're speaking in tongues. They dance. They're doing the same thing. And so sometimes we can sit there and we can stereotype people. And once I learned that later on in ministry, I learned how to come out of the box and allow God to bring me out the box. So that's the reason why I wanted to interject. I guess make a compliment and piggyback on what you actually said about the Baptist and stuff. It's not about that and things. You can go in a Baptist church and you think you're in a Kojic church. So it's not about that anymore.
You sure can. That is so true. That is so true, Pastor Diane. Let me tell you, I totally agree with you, and I also too witnessed in being in other denominations as well. But you're right. You can walk into a Baptist church and you're like, oh, okay. All right. So absolutely. And that has a lot to do, too, when we're talking about change as well, as you said, being open so you don't limit yourself. Sometimes change can be difficult because we continue to put limitations on ourselves. So that says a lot, too, in what you just said.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in regards to that, the next segment that we done got the introduction and we done got warmed up with the audience and what have you. And so the next thing that I would like to bring out and love for you to be able to touch on in regards to that, do you feel that change could be in regards to family? Do you feel that change for women could be, or could be men and what have you, but do you feel that change is in regards to family may be the purpose as to why women don't feel that they need to go forward? Because sometimes family members will denounce their own for moving from one religion to another.
Yeah, that I do think that can play a part, because when you think of family, you can't if you think of family, you have to also think of influence, right? In most cases, when you think of family, that is a very intimate circle, a very intimate relationship, and family has influence on your life, and so it can, and here's the thing, even in taking my situation and your situation, but I could have made a choice and said, okay, I've got family members that I know are not going to be supportive. And if I would have chosen to disobey, pretty much, that's the word, to be disobedient to God, then, all of the souls and all of the places where God has taken me would have been null and void. And so family does play a part, but we have to always understand that our life belongs to God and that He is Lord over our lives. And yes, having that support is wonderful, but I would rather, Pastor Diane, and I'm going to be bold in saying this, I would rather still be obedient and say yes to Christ than be disobedient because someone, even if it's my family, does not agree with me. And it's really not saying agree with me, but it's bigger than that. It's really saying, in agreement with what God has called me to do. But family can play a part, and I know that sometimes we choose to be a little slow in some things or responses or taking action because what is my family going to think or is my family going to be supportive? And I'm not saying that to ignore that. That's a very relevant question. But at the end of the day, we still have an accountability unto God, and we've got to be obedient to Him.
Absolutely. And even regards to that, sometimes, as you stated, excuse me. Sometimes family will play a part in that, and sometimes family will, even disown the child if they, or the adult or adult child, even if they decide to be able to move forward. So that's the reason why we're breaking these things down part by part to be able to help an individual to be able to understand that change comes from a lot of reasons, and there are a lot of reasons why people refuse to change. So the next question would be in regards to that. We want to talk about community. Even with community, it is very important. See, because when the Lord starts to blessing us and starts to taking us on different levels in Him and what have you, He'll also change a lot of things that we that are accustomed to, when it comes to change. And so community is another thing. I can recall some 20 years ago when I first got saved and what have you, it was a lot of things just changed. It was like an overthrow or what have you.
Yeah.
And so the clothes begin to change. The finances, of course, begin to change. And then the vehicles begin to change. But the most important thing, I begin to change and my community changed. So He moved us out of the stereotype community that we were in when we were not saved. So how can you convey over to the women as to community is very, very important. Our environment is very, very important, and I'm going to share another quick story right quick. This lady, she's about 70-something years old, and so, a lot of times people, they always wear these things on their cars, on their clothes and stuff. I'm saved, I love Jesus Christ. I feel that we don't have to do that. I feel that if we're saved, I feel that the person is going to see it down on the inside, whether we open our mouths or not. So she's
Absolutely.
I know I've been born again, so and so and so. But she was still carrying around, and she continues to carry around the same friends, the same gossiping friends, the same friends. This lady is older, 70-something, and she carries around the same environment. So that can also cripple and harm the individual, not harm them physically, but it can be able to harm a Christian woman that is trying to develop and trying to change when they, and I'm going to say it like this, the Holy Spirit, that's what He's there for. He comes in to bring conviction to things of where we need to be able to change in our lifestyle as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Pastor Diane. Pastor Diane, I agree with you on every facet you just said. And here's the thing, growing up, my mother used to say, "You are the company you keep," right? And it is something to be said about that. But we have to understand too, when we think about change, community is everything. It is so important. And when you think about change, you can't just look at it from a tunnel vision or a tunnel view. Change is going to change is so layered. So when you're talking about change and community, you have to also think about change mentally, mindset. You also have to think about change physically, even your health and wellness. You also have to think about change spiritually, your intimate relationship with Christ. So when you think about community and change, you have to see it from multiple layers. And sometimes we just have that tunnel vision, and it hinders us from change because we're not seeing it in the depth of how change really happens. And so when you are surrounding yourself in a community of people who are not either holding you accountable, are not like-minded, it's going to be hard for you to change. You might experience some shifts, so to speak. You might even experience some transitions, but I still think that change is different from transition. Change is literally a forthcoming. Change is literally a change in mind, a change in thought, a change in spirit, a change in emotion. It is so layered. And so you can't look at change as just I'm turning the channel on the television. You know what I mean? You can't look at change as just, as simple as that. Change is really a layered process, and your community affects that process. And so you've got to be very sensitive and intentional with the company you keep, with the conversations you have, with the people that you take time to entertain with, because all of that affects the layers of change. If that makes sense, Pastor Diane.
It does. It makes a lot of sense because it will affect the individual. And then, too, as going back to the salvation part of it, once we really start to getting into the depths of the salvation of living for Christ, then the conviction is going to come in there. It's not going to let you be able to maintain the same thing. Because as I was this minister was sharing with me some years ago on a job, and he was saying in regards to, the Lord had told me to go back and minister to the gang people that he had delivered me out of. And of course, God will give us a word sometimes to be able to go back and speak to those that maybe we have been around or been involved with. But the first key point or factor that I asked him, I said, well, how long did you stay when you go? He said, about 3 hours and things. And I'm like, no, I didn't tell him that, because sometimes we have to be careful of how we respond to individuals. And I'm like, no, that was not God. If God sends you back to bring a word to someone that is not saved and what have you, he's not going to allow you to hang around there too long. Probably about 4 or 5 minutes. Get your message conveyed, and then you move on. 4 or 5 hours, and things, you were not really actually done yet, or what have you. And so, and with that and things, perhaps he was still probably struggling, in that area as to with the gang, and then trying to be a minister, and he probably was still struggling in that area a little bit, I was thinking. So
and Pastor Diane, if I can add something really quick, I know you probably want to move on to the next question, but really, I want to share too with the audience, when you think of change as well, when you want to see, when you say, well, how can I measure this? I want you to look at that, mirror it to your time and how your time is spent, if that makes sense. When you really are changing in mind and changing in your well-being and changing in your spirit, you should be able to mirror that with how your time is spent. If you're spending time on idle things, if you're spending time on social media all day and everybody else's business, if you're spending time, talking about someone else and gossiping, measure your change by how your time is allocated. How much time are you really investing in you? How much time are you investing in your intimate relationship with Christ and growing that relationship? How much time are you investing in dealing with areas that no one can see? Areas of, if it's lack of forgiveness, if it's jealousy. So if you want to, kind of think about, okay, am I a woman who's operating in change or embracing change? Look at how you are spending your time, how your time is being allocated. I think that will be a great mirror to see what change or what's not changing in your life.
I absolutely agree with that concept, simply because of the fact that, if we are spending useless time, we can be using that doing something else. And then you hit a key point there, too, with the jealousy. Jealousy can really stagger another woman as to how she should be developing and where she is, simply because of the fact we look at certain things on social media platforms, and then once we look at them, we said, oh, look where she's at. And then we desire to be in that position. And then now we're trying to make up different things and stuff, and we're trying to create a brand, or we're trying to create things or on a Christian platform and stuff. We're trying to equal ourselves to the individual. That will not allow the individual to change, because they are still trying to be someone that they're not, because God has crafted all of us out to be differently, okay? And so there are things that I know that you don't know, and there are things that you know, Carenda, that Diane does not know. And so we're all coupled together, but it's in a different type of gifting, talents, and whatever else that it is that he puts on the inside of us. And so I think that's what can be able to prevent or prohibit a woman from being able to move into her potential of where she needs to be.
Absolutely. Oh, my gosh. Pastor Diane, yes, absolutely. So true. So true.
So the next in the next segment, we're going to talk about in regards to this, and this was so powerful on our Women's Summit that we had a couple of weeks ago, and so I'm going to still also allow you to be able to reiterate some things back to our panel and our audience, and that was in regards to, okay, so take for instance, I'm going to bring us a scenario, and so I've witnessed this myself. So take, for instance, a woman may be at a Baptist church, or she may be at a Methodist church, or she may be at an Episcopal church, and all of a sudden the Lord comes in, I'm going to speak to you, I want you to be able to change and things, even though, just like I shared it at the top of the show, as to how sometimes everybody is not going in the same direction. And so the Lord spoke to us, okay, we need you to be over here on ground B, but in order for you to be on ground B, you have to leave ground A, even though it is a pivotal. It was just so. It was roots that were there. We grew up in that church. We watched our grandmother sing in the choir. We watched our grandfather on the deacon board. It was painful to be able to move forward. So this is what I want you to be able to share with the women as to how effective and rewarding it can be when we do be able to move and transition, whether it's a church or whether it's a business, because even though we have a ministry, but we still teach women how to be successful and run their own brand. So how can women, if today a woman is struggling with something, you know what, should I leave or should I stay, or should I leave or should I stay? What are some tips and resources you can be able to share with the panel, with the audience on today, as to how to move from point A to point B?
Gosh, that is a great question. Let me say this. First of all, obedience is so rewarding, and sometimes we may not understand understand it all, but to fully trust, to fully rely on God is the greatest thing we can ever do. And with that being said, we have to fully come into a knowing and a belief that, number one, Pastor Diane, God loves me. God loves me. Mm-hmm. And so with that love, and when you think of any relationship, healthy, let me say that, a healthy relationship, there should always be growth and development. And in that growth and development, there will be change, there will be transition, there will be choices. All of that will come apart. But when you know that, first of all, you're rooted and grounded in a love that is unconditional, you're rooted and grounded in a love that has been established by grace, and you're rooted and grounded in a love that is established by trust, because the Word tells us to trust in the Lord, right? So when you know those things, it will help to give you peace. And here to me here's the key. Even as difficult sometimes change can be, you've been in this church, or you've been on this job. Maybe even God is calling you to walk into full entrepreneurship, or to start a business, or to launch out in your own ministry. I just believe that there will be a peace that surpasses all understanding when it comes to that. Because here's the thing that I do know, Pastor Diane, we serve a God who is a God of decency and a God of order. We also serve a God that he is not a God of confusion or chaos, right? And so if we trust and believe that our steps are ordered and that he is the author and perfecter of our faith, we have to give way to allow him to give us that peace that we need. Now, we may not have the answers, and it still may hurt in a way in which, gosh, I'm going to miss certain people, or gosh, I don't want this person to feel like I am, walking away from them, or I'm doing something that's contrary. But when God gives you a peace about the situation or the change, just know that peace is something that only he can give. So I first would say this. You've got to trust the love relationship. That's number one. Because no matter the direction in which he's taking you, if he loves you, he's got you. If he loves you, he's got all of you. That's number one. So no matter how challenging sometimes or difficult it may feel, you've got to trust the love relationship that you have with the Lord. That's number one. And then number two is you have to understand when he gives you that peace, you'll be able to move forward peacefully. And I believe that even in difficult situations or challenges, you can move forward peacefully and still, keep cordial and social, maybe relationships and friendships with that person, but being obedient to what God has called you to do. Okay, so I would say trust the love relationship, and then secondly, have that peace. Allow God to give you that peace that surpasses all understanding. His word says he'll do that, so we have to trust that. And then understand, again, like you said, Pastor Diane, the reward is priceless. The reward is priceless. And trust that. Trust that the reward is priceless. Don't look at the reward being something that you want to measure by the natural eye. Understand that the reward that Christ has when you are obedient unto him, oh my gosh, it is a fattened portion. It's truly priceless. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So we're going to go just a little bit more deeper into the segment, and it may be just a little bit more personal, and so we're going to talk in regards to relationships. And a lot of times this may be something that maybe originates from home or parenting or how an individual was raised. So here's the scenario. This is a live, true scenario. So here's two women. They come from the same denomination. They marry two men. They come from the same denomination, okay? And so all of them on the same, they didn't plan this together, but what I'm saying is they are all on the same accord, so to speak, what it appears to be. So even though with that, they stay with the spouses, I don't know, a few months or something like that. I think it was maybe like a year or less than that. And this is not a judgmental tactic or anything in regards to the women or to the husbands. They had pretty good husbands. I think I met one of them, and from me meeting one of the gentlemen, they very, very nice, cordial individual, very high-spirited, and so were they. Here's the thing, though. We're still talking about change, okay? Here's the thing. Once they move the women away from their comfort zone of their parent, move them away from mother. These are grown women. These women are not 15, 20, 30 years old. These are grown, supposed to be mature women. Somehow the parenting broke down, which is kind of sad to me, but that's the reason why I'm saying this is not something to be judgmental. I just wanted you to be able to share your thoughts on this. So this is where it broke down at. Sometimes we're in certain religions, it don't matter what it is, and sometimes all religions, it may be a little touch of this in all religions. We teach our children, but we forget to teach them love. We forget to teach them romance. We forget to teach them how to be able to structure themselves with a man and to how to be able to maintain a healthy marriage. And so so some of the credentials that the women needed, what the men needed, they did not have. And so, like I said, all of them come from the same denomination. And the denomination, I don't want to repeat it on here, Lord forgive me, but they all come from the same denomination, and it's a well-known African American denomination. But the parent forgot to teach them as to how to love, and it was some missing pieces there. The men put the women back on the bus, and see, I'm finna tear up right here. Put them back on the bus and sent them back home to their mothers. These were highly anointed, saved, sanctified, highly spirited men of God, and the women were in the same denomination with them. But the parents, they knew how to cook. They knew how to do hair. They knew how to do all of these things, with this dress code and things like that. And I tell people all the time, you can have on dresses, but that does not give you a free ticket to heaven. So anyway, they had all of that together. They knew how to cook. They knew how to feed the husbands. They knew how to clean up the house. They forgot. The parents forgot or even if the parents didn't teach them, they did not learn down through life. These women are in their 40s, like I said. They did not learn down through life as to how to maintain, keep the things burning in the home and things in order for the flame not to go out. So in regards to us talking about change, what would you like to offer up in regards to that scenario, that what I just spoke about, as to how women need to come out of some traditional things? They need to, sometimes in order for us to be able to land, some people be talking about Boaz and stuff, with Ruth and Boaz, but in order for us to be able to gain that husband that we desire the most, we have to make preparations. So before I go in there and start saying anything else, I just want you to take the floor and be able to share with the audience as to how that needs to be able to change the individual in order for them to be able to prepare themselves.
I would say, that's tough. That is tough.
Ooh, that's hard.
One thing you said was making preparation. That is absolutely key. And I'm going to be transparent here, as well for a moment, Pastor Diane. I have been through two failed marriages, and my first marriage was with a pastor. And here's the thing. I came from a very nurturing home. I came from a home where love was, I mean, we hugged, we kissed, we cried, we talked, we communicated. You know, we were that kind of family. But I would link myself or connect myself to men who had no idea what love was, right? So their growing up was very hostile. Their growing up was, my mother never told me she loved me, so to speak, or I don't know what it is to come home and get a hug, or someone to tuck me in at night and say, sweet dreams and everything's going to be okay. And so I began to want to be their hero. I was like, well, I can save them. I can be the person to show them what love really is, because they need to see that. They haven't had that. But in doing that, it became like a project instead of a marriage. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's a difference. And you don't want to come into a situation where you're in covenant with someone because this is a project for you, and this is not a marital covenant between me and this person and God. And so making preparation is important. And sometimes we really have to go to the Word in regards to understanding the definition of love, what love looks like, how love should be modeled within the home. Everything we need is in the Word. And as you said, these particular women, they weren't necessarily maybe taught that or saw that. And so I would say this. I agree with you that you have to make preparation, but you also have to, I don't know if they went through any pre-counseling. I don't know if they were clear, if both parties were clear on, marital objectives as it relates to the standard and the Word of God. But that's important. You've got to, and as going forward, Pastor Diane, there's a couple of things that I've learned. And when I say this, I'm going to share this. I don't know, Pastor Diane, if this is absolutely going to answer your question, but I think it will give us insight. One of the things that I learned was that I had to learn the difference between character and confidence. And so it's so important, Pastor Diane, because confidence can look very attractive. Confidence, charisma, all of that can look very attractive. But you've got to know the character of yourself, and you've got to know the character of the person in whom you are connecting with. You can't just be in relationships because you like what you see, but you've got to also like what you don't see, what you may not have seen, and you've got to know. You know what I mean? You've got to know the character. That's why I think it's so important in the Bible when it says, "Who can find a wife of noble character," right? And then it outlines some things. But character is so important, and it's so valuable. So, I know I've said a lot. I'm not sure if I really answered your question there, but I would say, yes, making preparation is key. You do that by taking time to understand your character and the character of another. And, know that in marriage, you're not in covenant because you're working on a project. You're in covenant because of a love relationship that's based on the value and the standard of love in which God has placed in His Word.
Absolutely, it does make sense. And even as today, as you've spoken about, was confidence, and that this was these ladies. Okay, so you out of you've graduated at the age of 18, and then you're getting married around the age of 40 something, and so that's the more key thing about it is how are you going to keep your confidence over that? Because a lot of times women would feel that, well, I'm not good enough, or he didn't like me, or what have you, and things. The relationship just did not last. some, like I stated, some religions and things. I don't think it's the home, but I also feel it's certain religions also teach certain things and stuff. Keep your children at home. We're just going to go to church on Friday night, Sunday morning, Bible study, things like that, but they don't get into the intimate part or the root of the part where they're teaching their daughters how to be able to maintain. It's more to a wife, especially when you're like we're talking about change, especially when you're trying to change and you're trying to go to another level. You're trying to do better because people don't understand what the scripture, some people don't, I'm not going to say everybody, but the scripture, what it teaches us about in the book of, I think it's Matthew, when it talks about the talents. Talents is change. Talents means growth. He gave the man, the man that was given the 2 talents, he gained 5, or the one that was given 5, he gained 10, and then the one that did not do anything, he get the Lord, which was the vineyard person or whatever, husbandman, but it represents Jesus coming back to see what you or we have done with what it is that he has given us. All of us have talents, so we have to operate and utilize those talents in order for them to be able to function. But there's going to be some change that's going to take place in order for the gift to be able to grow. It cannot continue to grow in the same orchid, the same vineyard, the same garden, the same place. It has to be able to sprout out. And so I felt that when these women, both of them, were taken from their comfort zone, it caused a shell shock in their mind. These men wanted to be able to go out, and they wanted to be able to explore some more things and stuff. Okay, we're not going to live around your mother. We're going to live around, in a different, they took them to a different state. And I feel that the women were shell-shocked because they were accustomed to the same thing, and they did not want to change to be able to add more value to what they already perhaps
I see.
Yeah.
I see. They had a lot of routine, traditional routine that they could not be open. Yes, and traditional routine, and I don't know if you would agree with this or not, Pastor Diane, but I think that sometimes when you get into traditional routine, that really can create bondage because it limits so many things. As you said, shell shock, mental, physical, everything. And so, that definitely can have a sense of bondage over your marriage. Yeah, when you're not open. Yeah, that's true. I see what you're saying now. I do.
And I felt that that's what was not trying to spotlight their information, but that's what I felt. Also, you just kind of brought it out a little bit even further. I think that's just what it was. It was tradition, and they, were not, a gentleman. When he makes preparation to marry a wife and he loves her, she got to be willing to pour back the same amount of love or more back into him. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I don't feel that the men were receiving that. They had such an abundance. They wanted to take these women and love them and things like that. But when it came down to the rubies, if you'll let me say it like that, the intimate part of it, that's where I felt that I'm thinking closer because I know these women personally, and I feel that that's where it may have broken down. The chain may have broken right there when it came down to the intimate part of their relationship and knowing how to be affectionate. Some, even though people are holy or what have you, bishops, apostles, it does not matter. They still know how to be able to be romantic to their significant other. You see what I'm saying? And I feel strongly that's where it broke down, and I feel bad even right now for even, just about by thinking of it and things. I feel sorry for both sides. I feel sorry for
both sides,
and I feel sorry also, for the wives in that aspect. But I got where you're coming from and things when you were saying, we're trying to sometimes women try to make a relationship out of a project. Look, I'm finna do this. I'm finna change this around. I can't do right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna change this.
So we ended up we'll fall flat on our faces trying to.
We will.
sometimes things some battles are stronger or bigger, if you will, or some things are bigger, projects are bigger. We'll use project. Some projects are bigger than what we can, perhaps maybe, see from on the outside.
Exactly. Exactly. And Pastor Diane, can I just say one thing right here? I just felt this. Sometimes, and you were talking about, different titles. We have to understand, and even on both sides with this situation that you were just talking about, when you make a choice, even as God elevates you, because marriage is elevation. That is elevation in itself. And even in ministry, when you think about, okay, if God elevates you to evangelist, or he elevates you to pastor or bishop, the title, thank God for the title, and I'm not negating the title, but if you do not embrace the change along with the title, if you are not open to the change that comes with the elevation, you are going to be stuck. You are going to be stuck. An apostle does not operate in the same function as a deacon. A bishop does not function in the same responsibilities and teachings, or responsibilities, I should say, as a minister. And someone who is a single, when you are married, that is an elevation as a wife and as a husband. You're not going to function the same as if you were single. And so sometimes we desire, or we say this is what we want, but understand in your desire and wanting what you want, be sure it is God who definitely is ordaining it. And if so, be ready to understand that elevation comes with change. That elevation, that promotion, however you want to look at it, comes with change. And if you're not open to the change that encompasses with that, then you're going to be stuck.
I absolutely agree. Well stated, and that's just all that needs to be said on that. That is well stated, because we get caught up in the positions and what have you and things, and then we forget about, okay, I'm a wife at home, or I'm a husband at home, or guess what, I got to live up to this, or because both of them, like you said, it's an elevation. When it's elevation, you got to be elevated too. You got to come up, and so you've
got to come up.
Come on
exactly.
Up and I'll make you rule over many. So,
Over many. Absolutely, Pastor Diane. So if you're not seeing change, you gotta, you can't blame it on the title. You got to go back and say, okay, did I change, did I embrace, did I move and elevate with where I am?
That makes
yes.
sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You have to have the Lord on board with you before, during, and what's phrase that we don't want to say after, but you have to have him on board during and before. And so that's the reason, I brought that up a little bit and things, and I feel that sometimes people are not taught, and none of us are given a golden book about everything that we face in life and what have you. But at the same time, it's just, it still grieves my heart, and this happened maybe about 10 years ago, but it still grieves me right today. The women still have not remarried. I'm not for sure if their husbands have moved on or what have you, but they have not remarried. They still walk around with the same stuff on, the same dress, got the same job, that they had when the husbands came in and met them the first time. And I felt that God was coming in doing a new thing with the women.
A new thing.
Like I said, it was not an unequally yoked relationship. They were
all
four of them was from the same denomination. They understood the creed, the whatever they were supposed to do, but they left out some of the main ingredients, and that how can I be effective? And then too, look, watch this. Even in a relationship, women have to be willing to change. A lot of times we teach in ministry that we can't take vacations, we can't have businesses, we think success is a dirty word, We can't sit there, if you're successful, you're bringing the business up in the church and stuff like that. No, it's change. It's change.
Yes.
And a lot of times individuals, they see things according to how, we were taught. But then that's still not going to be an excuse, because we have the authority to go in there and ask God, you know what? What is it that's holding me back? Is there any traditional or generational curses, if I can be able to go that far, and say, is there anything to be able to, is hindering me? And once we do that, God will uncover and reveal what it is that is keeping us stifled. And so, like I said, I sympathize more, I think, with the men than I do with the women, because I feel that they were shocked in thinking to what they felt that they was going to receive, and once they received it, they did not. It was totally unexpected. I think it was like if both of their relationships was over with, probably within less than a year. And I feel, and then one of the men, I know him personally. Sweet attitude, sweet spirit. He's a doll. And I know that, that was perhaps maybe something that crushed him and what have you. But that's the reason why we in ministry, not just in ministry, I'm not talking about, when I say ministry, I'm not talking about a microphone, and I'm not talking about a pulpit. We all have some type of ministry, as you stated. That's an elevation when we're married. But I'm saying it is when we're in ministry, we need to find our purpose. I'm not going to let you give me anything. I'm not going to let you give me anything. Let me see if this God talking to me first about this elevation. Yes. Let me see if God is talking to me first about this promotion, this position. Let me see first. Yes. I don't care if it's a pastor, a bishop, or apostle. Let me get before God for myself so I can know, so I won't walk in error in things. So like I stated, I sympathize more with the men in this aspect. I do. I'm sorry to say that than I do with because it's just like, okay, take for instance, and we're going to get ready to conclude this. Just like you're going in, and they said, okay, Carenda, we got something for you at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We want you to put on your best dress, your best shoes, or your best pantsuit, and you show up at 5 o'clock. You get excited. You're ready for this. Oh, I don't know what they got planned for me. And when I get ready to get there, I know it's got to be something wonderful, because they have rented a venue for me to be able to receive this big excitement or this surprise. And when you get there, it's a piece of chewing gum. You see what I'm saying? These men were inflated up. Do you hear me?
Oh, my God. That's how you got a piece of chewing gum.
It is a piece of chewing gum. They done rented a $500 venue for you, and when you get there, you got a piece of chewing gum. Room full of people. 300-400 people in the room.
Lord have mercy for a piece of gum.
So I feel this is what happened to these women. I'm serious. I feel that these men were inflated up. They had a big gift. They had a big old gift, and they was like, oh, I'm just going to have the best time of my life. And then once they received it, it was not what they expected.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I'm sorry for going there.
No, I love it. I love it.
Don't kill me, but I'm saying, that's just, you get through the door and stuff. You're looking for balloons and stuff, and here's Minister Carenda or Evangelist Carenda. Look, we just want to let you know and stuff. We appreciate your work here at the church. Just enjoy this pack of gum on us. I feel that's what these men were expecting. They were expecting something huge when they got these women. Yes.
Wow.
They were expecting something huge. And when they got and they got home, and the women was able to develop and produce what their husbands desired. See, you got to meet the need too. There are desires, and they
you do.
And when they felt that it was not there, they couldn't do nothing but close the shop up. Let's close this venue down. Let's take all these invitations and throw them in the garbage. Let's tell all these 500 people to go home and give me my pack of chewing gum back.
Give me my pack. You ain't keeping my new call.
You didn't do nothing. Give it back to me.
Give me back my gum. Oh my gosh.
Give it. So So with that being said, I'm going to let you, we're going to wrap the program up on today, and so I'm going to let you leave your final words with them, and also when leaving your final tips with the audience. Thank you so much for being. It has been fun. It has been enjoyable. We're going to have you back because you interact with the audience or with the speaker or with the host, I'm sorry. And then, too, share any upcoming events that you have that's coming up, and then any books that you have published where the audience can be able to go in and retrieve whatever resources and tools that you have to offer them on that aspect, and as well as how they can be able to follow you if you have some social media platforms or websites that they can be able to find you at after the show. You can do that at this time.
Wonderful. Again, Pastor Diane, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I feel the presence of the Lord. I am just grateful. I know that many lives have been changed. And let me just say this to all of you: change is necessary. Change is not optional. Can I say that? If you don't get anything else from what we talked about this morning, I want you to understand that change is necessary. It is not optional. We serve a God who desires for us to grow, to develop, to become more like Him. And you only can grow, you only can develop through change, through understanding that change is necessary. And again, I want you to know that no matter what it is you're facing, no matter what decision is before you, number one, trust your love relationship with Christ. Trust that. Trust the love that He has for you, and know that that love will not fail. Number two, remember that He will give you a peace that surpasses all understanding. And number three, trust that God will give you strategy. I do believe that even in change, God will give strategy. We serve a God who talks, who cares about every intricate detail concerning us. He never sleeps nor slumbers, so He will give you strategy even in this particular time and season of your life. And if you are someone who you may feel like, well, I don't know, and I've never been taught, and I'm not sure, I'm going to say this: that does not give you an excuse not to change, because the Bible tells us that in all of our getting, to get understanding. So I just pray that the spirit of understanding and wisdom and clarity and insight will be your fat and portion, that you don't make not knowing an excuse not to change. And I just hope and pray that there is just such an urgency in every one of you that you are open to change and you're open to the fullness of what God has called you to do. Gosh, I just so enjoyed this. If you all want to continue to stay connected with me, my website is CarendaDeonne.com. Again, CarendaDeonne.com. And my mission is to minister and to motivate women to live life on the promise of impact. And I am challenging women all across this nation not to make lemonade when life gives you lemons, but instead take aim. What does that mean? To throw them back. And I want women to know that no matter what lemons life has given you, you have the faith, you have the fortitude, and you have the forgiveness to throw those lemons back. So you can find more information about me on my website at CarendaDeonne.com. I'm on every social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, at Carenda Deonne. I'm also on YouTube. I do a lot of YouTube teachings, motivations, and that's Carenda Deonne LLC on YouTube. A few things that I do. I do a podcast every Thursday evening called the Take Aim Podcast at 8 p.m., so you can find information on my website about that. I have a members only for women in ministry. It is more of a mentorship program. and you can find more information about that on my website. And last but not least, my latest book is called Perfect Patty Messed Up Devotional. It's a 40-day inspirational devotional for women who are having trouble living this life of perfection, but understanding that you can learn some valuable lessons even when you make mistakes. And so that book, again, is called Perfect Patty Messed Up, and that can be purchased from Amazon.com. So that's my information. Please visit. Please connect with me, Pastor Diane. I have truly enjoyed this, and I hope to be back. This was a wonderful, wonderful conversation today.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for being our guest on today as well. And so we're going to go to your website, and we're going to post it to a couple of our other women audiences so they can be able to retain the book as well, because I think that also, and I don't want to keep getting into going further into the segment and things into the show, but we don't read enough. We need to read.
Yeah.
We need to educate. It
Yeah.
waters our mind. It waters
It
our thought. And it also can be able to be a therapeutic tool as well when we're going through things. It can take our minds off of what we're going through so we can be able to transition it for something else. And so thank you once again for being our guest, and we look forward to speaking with you again. So have a blessed day.
You too. Blessings.